some objections here. Now this is a common one. You're picking on the extremists. These aren't representative Christianity, they say. They might say, that's not how I feel about things. And that's okay. Although I gotta say that, when I'm talking about a group of evolution-denying, drill baby, apocalypse-loving, Tea Party and Christians representing roughly half the population of the country, I'm not so much picking on extremist examples as a representative sample when I say these things. That's how it's working right now. But I agree that there are moderate, liberal Christians. Some of you may have been here for the start of my talk. You've left already. But they are out there. And they could say, legitimately they could say, that yes, they support good science. They support objective science policy in government. They support good education for our children. They support the environment. They just happen to love Jesus too. And I would agree that those people exist. There's a number of them out there. But I'm sorry, I still don't like you. Now, I will concede that you are doing less direct harm. And I will thank you for your support of shared causes, and I'll also happily work alongside you. I will not snub you. I will not abuse you. I will say, yes, I will stand arm in arm with you, and we will fight together to get good science policy. But I also think you're doing indirect harm to foundational principles of a rational society. You believe in some outrageous bullshit. The Christian myths of a virgin giving birth to a God who dies, that's illogical lunacy. And these Christian doctrines of original sin and redemption through blood sacrifice by proxy, those are crippling psychopathological abominations. I don't know how Western society has made it this far with these bizarre beliefs underpinning our religious institutions. Now, the liberal Christians who are on my side on many of the aspects of science that I talk about are still promoting unreason by telling people that it is okay to believe in some bullshit without evidence. Not just bullshit without evidence, but bullshit that's in contradiction of evidence and reason. They are cafeteria realists. They undermine this whole goal of bringing humanity out of the darkness of ignorance and into the light of the real world by giving everyone an escape clause, an escape hatch. That if you don't like something, if you don't like some truth that science brings out, you can just say, oh, I don't believe that because God told me otherwise. That's not helping. We don't need that. So yes, I will help you when we have common goals. But still, I'm going to call you out every time to bring up this Christian crap, okay? Okay. And don't even get me started on the Mormon craziness. Or Scientologists. Or Raelians. Or Catholics. Or Protestants. Or Muslims. Or Buddhists. From the perspective of an atheist, they all look like total nut jobs from here. There's no reason to believe any of that. You see, the universe is clearly lacking in gods and supernatural forces, so I say to them all, grow up, set all that nonsense aside, join us and become a good atheist. You'll be much happier and will waste much less time in pointless, just pretend foolishness. Okay, so now you're all atheists. Oh, man, I've persuaded you all, right? No disagreement. Okay, Q&A, okay, but we'll wait. Now, the next question, of course, is what is a good atheist? How do you live as a good atheist? What should our values be? And this gets to be a tricky question. There's a really common metaphor that I despise because it's such a cliche. Atheists, it's like herding cats. You've heard this? Oh, come on, we need a better metaphor. But anyway, this is a very wildly diverse group of atheists. We all have different values because we all come out of different backgrounds. And we actually value that diversity. We think that's a good thing. But it does make it difficult for somebody like me to stand up here and say, oh, in order to be a good atheist, you have to do X, Y, and Z. Because somebody will announce, well, no, Y is wrong. And no, I don't believe in X. And oh, X and Z together, those just don't work. There will be lots of nitpicking. And so take this with a grain of salt. I'm setting a table, we can argue over it. So I'm going to just name a few very general things that I think atheists should agree on. But better yet, I'm not saying you should agree on them. I'm saying that as I watch atheists, as I go to many atheist meetings, as I talk to thousands of atheists, I'm seeing a sort of consensus emerging on these issues. And that is that there are three things I'm going to say we all should support, and that is truth, autonomy, and community. Those are the big three for us. Okay, what about truth? Oh, truth is easy. This one is so fundamental, and it's really hard to say much about it, because if you aren't dedicated to learning and discovery, to finding out the factual truth of matters, then you can't be a good atheist. Goodbye, you can leave the room, we're done. Nobody's leaving it. Good, okay, we're off to a great start. And now, the only objection you might have to this, you might say, well, this isn't a very good criterion, because doesn't everyone seek the truth? Don't Christians say they value truth too? And they do say that, but unfortunately, no, they don't believe it. If that were true, all the major Christian denominations wouldn't have denial of the mechanisms of evolution as core parts of their doctrine. And they do. This may surprise you. They all dissent from evolution. Now, right away, I know that many of you are thinking, well, but the Catholic Church nominally accepts that humans evolved over time. They say, yeah, go with the science, believe that. The Church of Latter-day Saints also is pretty good on evolution. They don't raise serious objections to it. They say, okay, yeah, humans evolved over time. It changes over time. Lots of denominations do this. But note that I said they all disagree with mechanisms of evolution. We have a battery of well-supported, unambiguously factual mechanisms driving evolutionary change. And absolutely none of them involve fairies, aliens, angels, or gods. They don't show up in any of the equations anywhere. We have no use for them. We have natural forces that generate the processes that produce evolutionary change. And those are sufficient. The only processes of evolution endorsed by any of these religious institutions, the Catholic Church, Latter-day Saints, whatever, is a God-guided, directed teleological change. The only kind of evolution they support is driven by a mechanism completely unsupported by any evidence, in direct contradiction to known processes, and propped up only by an irrational need to make their holy dogma relevant to human origins. They're all intelligent design creationists, in other words, and they're all wrong. I have not seen a single religion yet stand up and say, okay, yes, mutation is by chance. But there are many possible ways that things can evolve. That nature is what is shaping our evolutionary heritage, not God. None of them have the guts to say that. You see, I left my liberal Lutheran church when I was 13 years old. And when I was a 13-year-old boy, I went through confirmation classes, and I learned that in order to be a good Lutheran, I was expected to believe in a lot of false ideas. That I could not be a member of that community unless I accepted that God was born of a virgin and died on a cross and resurrected to save our sins, and a bunch of bullshit like this. And I left the church on the instant. No reservations, no problem at all. And you see, that's because this has been a lifelong value for me. How much of the facts and the data and the evidence are you willing to compromise? And my answer is pretty simple. It's zero. That's what matters, is the truth. And I think that's the case for many atheists. Truth is what's important. If God came down right now appeared in this room with thunderbolts, lightning, all this sort of stuff, and made announcements, that would be evidence. And I would have to say, oh, I'm going to have to incorporate this into the body of evidence that I've got. I would have to adjust my thoughts. But it's never happened. Until that happens, zero evidence, zero reason to believe it. Okay, the second value I gave you was autonomy. For many years, atheists have been in the minority. I have talked with so many people who thought for so long that they were the only one, the only person in their community who saw through the god-awful babble of their church. Of course, now we have the internet, those same people are discovering that they're part of a global movement, which is changing things. This is one of the reasons we're exploding right now, is all of a sudden, all these little people, down there at BYU, down there in Logan, and in Salt Lake City, they're suddenly saying, oh gosh, there's an atheist over here I can talk to, I'm not the crazy lunatic all by myself. That's useful. But what it means is that many atheists are nonconformists. They're boat rockers, they're weirdos, they're outcasts. And we like it that way. Every one of you is different. You're not here united by a common faith. You haven't bought into a set of lies and promises. It's really weird. It's kind of funny. When I talk to people at these meetings, they're all here for different reasons. They all have different values. And like I say, there's these common threads that come up. But you've all, every one of you is unique. I'm kind of expecting somebody who's seen that movie about Brian to pipe up. Okay. We have no sense of humor. No. Anyway, we like it this way. We're not sheep. This is the amazing thing. We love people who stand up for themselves, and we detest people who try to impose rules on them. That's why I said I had to be really careful here, because I don't want to sound like I'm telling you this is what you must do, because that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm saying this is the common thread that we're seeing. If I tried to tell you, oh, you have to do this, you have to wear socks with your sandals, I would be pilloried, right? I was punished by the community, because we're a pitiless bunch and we do not tolerate that nonsense. But what it means is that we also find common cause with people who've also been oppressed by this racist, patriarchal culture that we live in. There's this whole giant community of Americans who've been pariahs and outcasts. And not only are we looking up as atheists and finding each other, we're looking at these other people and saying, hey, you've gone through this same stuff too. We share something. And we can be sympathetic and work towards multiple causes. Because this is one of our values, is that people should be free to be who they are. And more, they should be free to stand up loud and proud and be that person with impunity. We're not going to live in a monoculture. We're going to find strength in that diversity. Now, I can think of no clearer example than the struggle that has riven the atheist community lately. We've been working on this for the last few years, and that's the effort to acknowledge the role of women in atheism. For years, I've been going to these atheist meetings, and any of you who are old school members of the atheist community, you know this. You went to an atheist meeting, and what was it? It was a bunch of old to middle-aged white men, and they were sitting around arguing about the Bible. They were so boring. That was the face of atheism, and a certain complacency settled in. Women, by default, had their roles, which weren't very big because there weren't very many of them. Let's pretend Madeleine Murray O'Hare didn't exist. Yeah, we had some very outspoken atheist women too. And we had this casually masculine expectation that all of our intellectual leaders would look like, well... Sorry. I do my part. I try to tell people, bring in more women, bring in more minority speakers. It's how we grow the movement. I can do an occasional bit of entertainment, but yeah, bring in more people, more diverse people. You see, for a long time, atheist meetings looked a lot like meetings of the Mormon leadership. Now, that's changing. That's changing fast. We're telling people to come out, join us, be free of the straitjacket convention,